If you do not want to be recorded, please leave now. Okie dokie. Oh, we got more. All right, there we go. We are recording. Okie dokie. All right, so do you, where do you want to start? You want to start with Prompt Builder?
I think Prompt Builder makes sense. Yep, let's start there, and then we'll go into the agent from that.
Okay. So, well, we got people still trying to hop in. First off, does everybody have a link to this? Oh no. Since I didn't actually invite everybody, I can't let y'all send messages. So you're gonna have to use your voice. I apologize terribly for the inconvenience. I sent a message with a link to an exercise guide, and it should take you to exercise 1, create a field generation template.
It does.
Yes, Danielle, I could see that message.
Yeah, it looks like
What
some
do you
people
think?
can send messages, so I think we're okay.
Oh, cool. I was able to turn it on then also. Okay, cool. So if everyone go ahead and get this pulled up. I'm not gonna share my screen. I don't have an environment that is set up the way that you all do. So if what you want to do is just start out by turning on Einstein, right? This is pretty straightforward. Everything that we do, everything that you do at all with anything generative, whether it's going to be Prompt Builder or an agent, you're going to have to enable Einstein. It's all of the generative AI features all bundled up into one. I bet you did. You're not the AI I was talking to.
Mike, do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah, I can. Absolutely. Oh, requesting to bypass a system private window. Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
found that.
Bypass that.
Just bypass the thing. Yeah.
That privacy is reasonable to bypass.
All right, let's do this one. Can you guys see this?
Yes, got it.
Okay, so this is the link that you had sent.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise 1, create a field generation template. Yeah.
So what we want to do, well, if everybody pulls this up and starts stepping through this, it's pretty, the instructions are pretty straightforward. We're going to talk just while everybody's clicking through. We're going to talk about what essentially we are doing. So what Prompt Builder does. Prompt Builder is a way for you to take a standard prompt, a GPT style, like a chat GPT style prompt, and use that for a specific field so that your users, your end users in Salesforce can click a button and have a defined prompt apply to that field, right? So good use cases are going to be things like generating account summaries, right? Like this is insurance and fin. A good example might be something like, based on this person's current investments, define for me their attitude towards risk, right? And you could then have the prompt generation template go and gather up a bunch of data and then figure out what that risk profile is, and then write a succinct paragraph with some references about why it believes that is the answer. It's a good use case for prompt templates and for Prompt Builder. What would I not use Prompt Builder for? Trying to put a good subject or description on a case. Probably not doing that, right? We wanna do something that is actually going to take some bandwidth off of the plate of the person that is going to click the magic button, right? So try to find fields that you're going to be able to drop a block of text in there, right? And something that you'd actually have to think about, right? Maybe you have to go gather some sources to be able to do that. Again, like an account summary is really great at this. A good one would be a summary of like the last like 10 interactions I've had with this person, or I've seen one use case was like prior to calling up a customer, the prompt template and prompt builder was ultimately used to generate a before call review of the account, so that there were a bunch of different things that were checked. There were some cases were being checked, leads were being checked, upcoming renewals that were pending were being checked, all sorts of different stuff was happening. And what it did is it did like 10 minutes of work and then summarized it into a single paragraph that just said, prior to giving them a call for what you want to talk about, here's what they're going to think, right? Here's the one open case they have and exactly where it's sitting. Here's the one pending opportunity and exactly where it's sitting. And then here's the reason why you want to talk to them and how you can weave these two things into that conversation. It was a great use case, saved that rep a lot of time, or all of those reps a lot of time, right? But we get to the spot that Danielle has up on the screen. I want to stop. So there's 3 sections of this screen, and they're all really important, right? Where you do your designing, when you're actually trying to figure out what exactly do I want to say, that's going to be in this top main section, the prompt template workspace. This is where you can literally give the instructions, right? So if you were talking to GPT, where you're typing your message, this is where you type that message, right? Lower left, you have resolution, and lower right, you have response. Resolution is going to be for the people who are a bit more technically minded. I want to see the why, right? Response is literally what you get back, right? You don't have to really focus on the resolution, but it's good to see and be aware of, particularly if you're trying to figure out something rather spicy. We'll see this in the example. We're pulling in data using merge fields, just like we would with an email template or, excuse me, pretty much anywhere else in Salesforce where you use a merge template. We're doing that same thing here. If it doesn't appear for you in Quick Find, give your Salesforce a hard refresh. When you enable Einstein, it takes a second to hit the server and come back to you, and Lightning loves to cache. And so Lightning just hasn't asked the server if you have access to it, so it's not displaying it. So give it a hard refresh. Yeah, there's actually my favorite plugin for Chrome. I can look up the name of it in a minute, but it's just a refresh button that essentially dumps your Lightning cache for the last hour and then hits the server again. Best extension ever. Let me finish my thought and then I'll try to solve a couple problems that we have here. So what it's going to do in that resolution area, you got those merges that are in there. The resolution will show what the data actually went and got and brought back. So the way I like to think about the 3 sections on the screen, here's the instructions that I give the AI, that's at the top. Once we actually process those instructions, we've fetched the data and we're getting ready to give it to the AI, that's the resolution, right? So you're gonna see the merge field in the resolution, the results of the merge field. What you get back as a response is pretty straightforward. One of the big reasons why we want to be able to see these is when we think about the actual cost to use the AI, we calculate that by counting the number of words that were actually delivered and that we get back. That's called your API call size. So if I take the total number of words in my resolution and the total number of words in my response, and I add them together, that's my API call size, right? So you want to be able to visualize this, right? This big reason for that is, let's say I was lazy and when I fetched some data, I fetched the entire row every single field, and then I gave that to GPT or to the AI, that's a mistake. I probably don't want to do that, because if I'm not using that data, it's increasing the size of my call, which means it's going to take longer and it's going to be more expensive, right? So seeing the resolution gives you that opportunity to actually give yourself a gut check, like, ooh, did I need that data? Should I have done this? Did I really need the entire case history, or did I need the last 3, or only the ones that are currently open, right? So think through it that way. All right, so let me look at what's not working. It took a minute. You were able to see it. It says you have the menu option, but you don't have permission. So let's check your permission set and make sure that you have the permission sets assigned.
Refresh helped that as well. If you're if you refresh, I had that was a problem I had, and I refreshed it, it worked.
Yeah. Okay, so here, Danielle, if you scroll down just a smidgen, you can actually see the results of your merge field.
Yeah, this is all.
Right? And then you're getting that response. Oh, there was a step in, I can't remember if it's called out specifically here or not. If you're not getting data, I don't know if anybody's having this problem, but it was with one of my other groups. Is anybody not getting any data back? Because there's a button that you can click in the package that you installed that goes and gets data and brings it back.
Yeah,
like it
maybe that's part of my problem, because I've got, I mean, if you're just looking at what mine is, they told me to go and change the words, right? So here's my words, save and preview, make that go a little bit better. But it looks like all of these merged.
Yeah,
not.
So and this is a link to the same, it's just a different section of the same site, a different page. But if you go back to this page,
So I'll show it here so everyone knows what's on here. Yep.
On the install and setup Cloud base package, you've all probably installed the package. The big thing that we want to do is make sure that you get that Cloud permission set and assign it to yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
The admin user, assign that to yourself. And then the simple data import from your app launcher, we want to make sure that you do that. So the simple data import, what it does is it creates some of these experience records, which the prompt builder and the agent then rely on.
Which step is that, Mike?
Stop scrolling. It's 12.
Oh,
well, 11 and 12, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that I'd done this one. So let me try again, just to make sure.
If you do it too many times, you aren't going to hurt anything.
So in my app launcher sample, which I did.
And you click the button.
And then I clicked the button, which I did.
Yep. Then you should be good. Give that like 3 minutes and it'll be done.
Successful.
There you go.
Which I had that before, but we'll see. And then I need to go back to my setup. And then prompt, right? Prompt builder. Do I need to do this whole thing again? Okay.
So
okay. So
you
here's
can go into
I already created one. So where did that go?
I think it's the bottom one. Yeah, you can click on the little down caret on the right and click edit.
Okay. Yep.
And then if you go into click the resource up at the top, it's the little search area. Yeah. And then go down to experience. and then choose the field. So you've got text there, not the actual merge field. So here, if you choose like experience name, or if you start typing experience name,
There.
yep, and then click on that experience name. And so it's giving you the dot notation version. You can type it, or you can go through that process each time. And if you know the name of the field, you could just type input : experience _c dot your field name. It's using dot notation because we stole that from Java. Thanks, Java. You have to click on the experience first, then the field. So is everybody able to get to this point? Cool beans. So the other thing that's really important about this is if you look at on the right side of the screen, we have configuration. And one of the other big elements of control that we have with how our prompt works is the model, right? And so this defaulted to OpenAI's GPT 3.5 Turbo. There are a boatload of models that are available that are standard models. You could also import your own custom model. Now, this is a bit of just generative AI theory, but go with me for a second. Let's say I'm using the latest and greatest, I have access to GPT-5, let's say, right? Like I am out there, I've got the best model in the world, right? The drawback to the best model in the world is the model itself is too large, right? I don't remember the exact numbers, but like ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo has something like 16 or 17 billion nodes, which is a lot, right? 4.0 went from 16, 17 billion to like 30 trillion. And 4.0 has the entire internet, everything. Now, do you ever, just as a human, just as a person, somebody asks you a question and you're sitting there thinking because you're like, hold on, I'm trying to place the context of your question so that I give you the correct answer. Think about how hard that would be if you had the knowledge of the entire internet. To take more time, right? One of the things that we want to avoid is time, right? Because time is ultimately going to impact your end user experience. It also impacts your cost, right? There's a simple model, and I'm putting simple in quotes here. There's a simple model that we use, which is what everybody says, like talking to AI in Salesforce costs you $2 when you use Agentforce. Like a conversation costs $2. What do you get for that $2? Well, we decided, right? Go with me on this. Your $2 is going to get you 200 Einstein requests. Okay, it's a bucket of 200, and you consume some of those Einstein requests as your conversation goes on. If you use them all up, we just give you another bucket of 200, and it costs another $2, right? So what you want to do as a designer of this is not immediately consume all of your 200, right? I need that 200 to kind of last throughout an entire conversation. Well, you consume those by the total API call size, plus some fancy math, right? Well, the smaller my model, the more sharp my model is, the faster it's going to think. Ultimately, it's going to consume a smaller amount of credit. The bigger my model, the more complicated my model, then the more credits I will consume, right? It's actually 30% cheaper from a credit consumption perspective to use a custom model than a standard one. Just right out of the gate. Like the way that we do the math, we save you 30% consumption just by switching to a custom model. And your custom model could be bigger or smaller, right? It's probably not bigger than 4.0, right? But what you want, ideally, is a small targeted model that actually understands your business, right? And there are lots of ways of producing these. But for today, just pick a model. If you don't like your results, if you think, GPT 3.0 or 3.5, it didn't give me good results, just switch to a different model. Play with it, right? We're not paying for this environment, so just do whatever you want. But honestly, 3.5 Turbo is fine. Like it's a very reasonable model.
I'm gonna just come on top of you really quick, Mike, and just say safe harbor on this one.
Very much so.
We definitely forgot to throw that there. So pricing in general, like make sure that you go and talk to your Salesforce AEs about this. As the consumption-based model continues, I know that it's constantly changing a little bit. And so whatever it is that we say today might be different tomorrow. I was even in a workshop at the tower this week. And, a side conversation from that was that it was changing yet again based on the types of conversations they were. And like, if it was a password reset, then it was going to be less than a 20-minute conversation about a claim, because we're all insurance people, right? So the claim or something. And so that's also potentially changing, and I'm not sure how that all affects it. So again, safe harbor, just please go talk to your AE.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Excellent call out. Please do not make any purchasing decisions based on things that I say, and only generally available products and features. Always check with your account executive. Whatever your contract says is golden. Everything I say is completely irrelevant. What you're talking about is a future model that we're in the process of developing, and it's to help address the basic challenge of whatever we design and build, right? Like, forget the model. Whatever it is, I still build together the API call size of the resolution plus the response. I add up those words, and that's what's going to impact my billing. It's kind of silly to power up like a top fuel drag car if you're trying to drive to your neighbor's house, right? That's a lot of horsepower for a very simple task. You could probably walk, right? So the reason why we're looking at these other models is to move closer to this thing called compute. And compute is basically just like, how hard did the computer think, right? The closer we get to that, the more transparent the pricing is, the easier it is for everybody to adopt, because saying thank you just gets an automatic response of whatever you want your thank you message to be, right? And we basically, that's like whatever the cheapest thing is, it's that, right? Like that costs you a penny instead of that costs you $2, right? So we are trying to fix that, and we're responding to the market in large part, right? So yeah, all of that pricing is very flexible. Right now, officially, it's $2 for a conversation with Agentforce, but all of that pricing is going to get negotiated anyway. Like that's list price. I don't know if anybody on the call plays list price for anything with Salesforce. If you do, we should have a conversation about how to talk to account executives. Just say no at least once, right? Okay, so anybody have any questions on what's on the screen right now? Prompt Builder, how it works, what we're toggling, what we're going for, anything like that? Yes, no, maybe so. We all feel good? Cool beans.
We got some thumbs. Good.
So what we want to jump into next, this next step, step 3, is going to be kind of connecting this template into the description field. So go ahead and move on to that next step.
Hold on, I don't think I clicked activate. Make sure you activate it.
Oh, yep.
Right?
Yeah, activate.
Okay.
Yepers.
All right.
Activation is done. So this portion, essentially all we're doing is we're connecting the fact that I have this thing, right? This prompt template to the specific field on a specific object to do a specific task, right? So when we think about what Prompt Builder was a way for me to say, here's the message I pass to AI every single time. But we now need to associate, because that's a very specific thing, we now need to associate that to the specific field on the specific object that we're going to use it with, right? We won't build a prompt template that applies to 30 places, right? We don't want to do that. We want to build a prompt template designed for one field on one object, and then move on to new templates if you need. And so that's essentially what we're doing here.
All right. I feel like I broke it.
You got to find your login.
Yeah. Boo. Hold on.
You got to find a credential. That's my favorite. So this part is going to be some straightforward admin work. We're going to go to the objects. We're going to edit the page, and we're just going to add the Einstein field.
Oh, come on. I broke it, sir.
It's only happening because you're sharing your screen, as we all know.
No, I wouldn't say that.
When you do it in front of somebody else.
It is this one and not the Cloud Resorts one, right? Just making sure that I'm going to the right one.
You can go to Coral Cloud Resorts. I think that works.
See if this one lets me in instead. And go to this record.
Paradise.
Click on the setup icon. Edit page. Click the description field. Oh, go away. 2021. What on earth?
Hey, it's new. That's hot. You got to check that out.
All right. So I click on this one and then over here, because apparently I've got all these things that are happening in the
We're just going to select the template that we
prompt
just
template,
created.
which was called what? This one.
Generate experience description.
And then I'm going to click save. All right. I'm going to go back.
I would give your page a hard refresh.
Go here. Oh, look at that little star that happened. Did you see that?
Sparkles. Everybody loves sparkles.
It is. I know several people who that's their favorite emoji.
Right? And then
Click
when you click on that, it should let you open that Einstein browser that's in your utility bar. Yeah. And so this is it actually thinking about it. If you like the template, if you like the answer it gave you, you can click use. If you didn't like it, you can have a conversation with Einstein about it and tell Einstein what you would like to change, right? Like I want you to include a limerick at the end because Einstein, for whatever reason, is actually reasonably good at limericks. Or a haiku.
Oh, look, waterfall.
Song suggestion. Waterfalls by TLC. Fantastic. Right? So what I like to point out at this stage is what's essentially happening is we're saying, look, here's where I want you to start, right? So the template is how I start. It's not the end all be all. Your end user has the ability to still kind of modify this and make it work for them. I could be using this for nearly anything, but again, I want to focus on that kind of content that is longer text, right? Like an after action summary of what happened, anything that's going to take your end users a little bit of time to fill out, particularly if they're going to have to go and get data from various sources, right? This is built on top of Data Cloud, so we have all of the data, right? If all of your data lives in Salesforce, you don't need the Data Cloud, but still go gather all that data, let GPT do that, let it sync all of that through, and then build all of this and deliver it up, right? Because that's what Einstein's here for, right? Any questions about Prompt Builder or how we use it? Because that's it. Prompt Builder is really easy. right, I'm looking at your question. After we select the record, what do we select before the description? I'm sorry, can you tell me a little bit more?
You're going to go to, so I think that he's asked, select the record. What do we select before the description? Did you add, you edited your page, correct? The experience page? I think maybe that's
okay.
what you were, like we went
Yeah.
and we got the record, and then you needed to go to setup, which is here. And then you need to go to edit page. And then I don't remember what I did.
So
and then I went and hit description.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came over here to the prompt template, and it created, this was blank before. So I put the template in here and then push save.
Mm-hmm.
And then went back. And then I had the ability, and then that should change this here. See how all of these edit fields are just regular pencils, and this is a fancy sparkly pencil? Not yet.
I like that calling it the fancy sparkly pencil is the way to go.
That is a very technical term that I'm pretty sure all the product managers at Salesforce use.
I think so. I mean, if not, I feel like that's a thing we could make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
In
That
the
help? Was that better?
now.
Sparkly pencil and can. All right, are we good?
I think so. So one thing I will say, you can take all of the exercises that are in here and complete them in this environment. But for now, I think we should skip the other prompt builders and jump straight to the agent.
I would agree.
So,
unless everyone else is, yeah, they can practice on their own later.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump ahead in the activity guide. You can't find your sparkly pencil. So
It should be on your description. Did you push the description? All right, we're going to try one more time.
Yeah,
so
it's only on that field.
We go to the experience, we go to the record page, right? And now I'm going up to setup here. And then I go to edit page. So this is your just regular page. And then you click on the field that you want the prompt to be put into. And then you have to go change your prompt and save it. And then go back. Brad, I really love that. Instead of telling. And then your little sparkly pencil will be here. And Eileen, I think I had to do a hard refresh to make it show up.
Awesome. Glad you got it working.
Eileen, did you find your sparkly pencil?
Brad,
I'm getting there. I have
question.
to remember the name of my my template, but yes, I got it now.
Cool.
Brad, to answer your question, can we tell the AI to be short? Yeah, you actually totally can. However, saying 40 to 50 isn't going to help you very much right now with current model. The way that the pricing calculation actually works from start to finish, total number of words that you supply plus the total number of words you get back, divide that by 1,500 and then multiply that number by your LLM multiplier, which is either 10 if you're using standard or 7 if you're using custom. That's a 30% discount for using a custom model. Then you take that rounded up to the nearest whole number, and you're going to end up with, if you're using standard models, somewhere between 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, etc. That's your consumption of Einstein credits out of that bucket of 200. Makes total sense, right? You tell I've said that many times. So again, that's the standard, the current calculation. Yes, that math is published and I can find it. But because the numbers are so big, right? 1,500, right? Essentially being the first bucket, until you get to that 1,501st word, it doesn't actually matter. Most conversation back and forth is going to consume that smallest bucket of credit, which is actually what was driving the conversation about switching the model. Because if I say hi, and then they respond with hello, like we're using like kind of a full scoop of credits for what should really just be like the tiniest scoop of credits, right? That's the pleasantries. And so that's kind of what pushes us towards that other model. I don't think you need to suggest that it's cheap and consolidate, because you're with Prompt Builder, we're probably going to consistently always be in the exact same spend, right? It's probably always going to be 10. Maybe you have a really big one because you're like, oh, I want all the active cases, the subject and description, right? And maybe you're consistently at a 30. 30 out of a bucket of 200 right now is not that big of a deal, right? But again, always do it on your own. Always do your own math, figure out what works for you in your business. I would look at results, not the calculation. But that's my 2 cents. Okay, any other questions on Prompt Builder before we move on? And I will find this. I will look for that in just a minute, actually. So I sent that link in for the getting started with the agent. Make sure Einstein's on. It should be on. Everybody should already have that on. And then we're going to jump directly to step 2, which is going and getting your agent.
So this one's done.
Yep. Got to hit that Agentforce toggle.
So we're going to start here. Okay.
Yeah. And while you're doing that, I'm going to look for the. I'm going to look for a link. Which I may not be able to find.
Open setup.
I recently switched computers, and naturally, the only way I can find anything is in Slack.
All right, this is where we're toggling it on. In the list of agents at the bottom screen, click Agentforce default. Okay, this little thing is not helpful. Hide. There it is. Click default and open in Builder. I'm going to go through this little step thing so you guys can see it really quickly. Next, enhance your capabilities. Next. And this is where you get to see it.
So right when we get to this point, we're building out topics. One of the things I want to highlight is that a lot of the build and the design for your agents is with natural language. And that is very, very intentional. I want you to be able to design and build an agent using your voice, right? Your words, because when you're using your words, you're going to give me all of the meaning that you want in accordance with the LLM that you define. And that's really, really important, because particularly when you get to the point of, like if we use the example of the very large bank that I work with, that, they have all of my money, and I walked in and I sat down with my advisor, and my advisor's, having a conversation with their AI agent, Alex, and me at the same time. And Alex, the AI agent, generated a full financial plan. There you go. There it is. Like, Mike said all of these things. This is what he's saying, right? But that's based on a specific language model that bank developed and then fed into Salesforce, right? So using natural language is a really good way to interact with that model. That's why we're sticking with natural language throughout the build of this. So when we build this topic, right, or you go on to edit an existing topic, or we get to the action, you're going to see a lot of really, if you're used to building things in a very concrete way, you're going to be like, why is this so wishy-washy, right? And it's because we're interacting with a language model, so you can use natural language.
So I'm just curious as we're doing this, do I need to remove from agent something?
For which step?
Let's remove the default topic.
Oh, you can.
Where is that? I don't.
The migration default topic. You do a little. Let me look at your screen. So yours is already gone.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy.
Yeah. I think they've improved on the build in between the.
I didn't know if anyone else was confused with that or not. So
yeah, if it's gone,
here we go.
Yeah. So the other thing I want to highlight with topics are where you can create your own guardrails. So guardrails are really important aspects to the way that agents work. So when you think about, like, I'm training a new employee, one of the things that I'm going to make sure that I'm saying, I'm going to give that employee specific instructions, like always be polite, never ask for a social security number, right? These are different, completely distinct instructions. But by giving instructions that start with the words always and never, I am always able to give a very clear message to this agent and prevent the agent from doing something, or make it so the agent always does a thing, right? So think of instruction within topics as a way to create guardrails for yourself, right? If I want an agent to never, ever do something, say it. Add an instruction and say it, right? If you realize I'm giving too many instructions, right? Like I've got, I don't remember what the limit of instructions is off the top of my head, but if you've got 50 instructions, maybe we have more than one topic, right? But if you've got like 10, 15 instructions, that's okay, right? If you've got 50, that's too many. Like, tighten up your topics. You can have lots of topics, right? But make sure the instructions are relevant to the topic, and then make sure that you're using these always and never words whenever you can. Does that bit make sense to everybody? Because guardrails are super important.
I know that our team has been working, as we've been piloting out to get some of these agents out in the wild in like production with some of the clients we've been working with. This is where I think extensive UAT testing and or pilots is very important, because there's going to be a lot of guardrails, especially as the data starts to flow in, that you don't necessarily think of, that all of a sudden become we didn't think of that. We need that in there as well. As you kind of start to release these out there. So when yes, an agent is like super fast to build, but I would make sure that you are having some sort of pilot program that goes along with these agents before you just push it out to the total masses, as you're trying to like figure out those guardrails. That's just a tidbit from the team that we work with on a regular basis that builds these.
Totally. Was very good advice. I think there was I had a conversation with somebody once, and they were basically saying, well, like, we didn't do extensive testing because the tool itself is so expensive, right? And I pointed out to this customer that this exact same customer, that they were regularly consuming about 10 cores of MuleSoft in their pre-production spaces. 10 cores of MuleSoft is a lot of MuleSoft. And when it's pre-production, you're paying for consumption in a sandbox, right? But we see value in that. We see value in being able to test the entirety of our business processes to ensure that they're not broken, right? There was more cores of consumption and production than there were in the testing spaces, which made sense for this customer. And it's just important to realize this, right? Like we pay for testing in sandboxes all the time. Don't skimp on it just because we've gotten down to pricing on a kind of like a by interaction basis, right? That's not an excuse to not test. Oh yeah, this needs a very hard refresh.
Yeah, it's not. Why is it not showing up? What's happening? Come on.
Did you do the agent action?
I think so.
Okay, jump back to your agent.
Yep.
Wait, you're using the employee one? Wait a minute.
This is me, right? And then this is my agent. This is the thing that I just did.
Oh, yeah. No, you're in the right one. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're on this agent builder, you can actually play with this right here. So in the lower right-hand corner, where you've got the conversation preview, they just start chatting with it. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, this is gonna get much better. It's not gonna understand your first message, but it's gonna do a lot better with the second message. And this is a good example of the whole testing, right? It has no idea who I am. There's no context for that, right? But as soon as you started to talk about a vacation or a holiday, it goes, oh, okay, well, I actually have some topics and skills that I can rely on now. I have topics and actions, which I can then bring to the table. But if you ask it something that it doesn't have a topic for, you've essentially said, sure, I'm interacting with a large language model, but I have not told you at all what to do. And so it has an understanding of what you mean, and it can technically understand you, but it can't associate any capabilities with that. And so all it can be at this point is conversational. So that's kind of the potency of having these topics with actions that relate to the topic. It's so simple that it works just like this, right? There's certainly a lot that went into it, right? All of the actions that came with the package, which we did because it simplifies you being able to put your hands on the tool. But this is a great way to just test and interact and see how it goes, right? So I would encourage everybody, you should be able to get it functional here, right? If you can't get it functional here, there's no reason to look elsewhere. The other thing I want to highlight to everybody is, again, we've got kind of 3 sections of the screen. You've got the bit on the left, which is going to be, here's the rules that your agent is going to play by. You've got the bit in the middle, which is like that, I'm totally blanking on what the R word is. The render. So this is kind of what the agent was stepping through, so that you can see this is the math section of show your work, right? You're getting that through the middle. And then on the right is you're getting the actual conversation, the actual output you got back. And so you can explore, just like in a flow debug, you can kind of see all of the steps that this agent went through to go and do things. And in some of the examples that we have, if you go through some of these others, there's a lot of really extensive stuff. If you get into how you might connect this to Data Cloud and then reach out to other sources of data, you can do some really, really extensive things. And this agent can be doing a boatload before it actually even comes back to you to say something. One of my favorite examples of this, we do here at Salesforce, and it's a proactive agent. And every time a user is trying to log in and you get locked out of the main authentication point, our SSO system, if you get locked out of SSO, an agent sends you a Slack message and is like, hey, you're having some trouble, buddy. Do you need some help? And it is the best experience as a human locked out of a system to get a message in Slack, hey, you're trying to log in. and you're getting locked out. Is this actually you? That is so powerful, right? We think about, like, as an organization, people attack Salesforce all day long, right? Like, let's be super transparent about it. People attack Salesforce all day long, right? Because we hold incredibly valuable data the world over, right? Well, wouldn't it be brilliant to just know, like, hey, are you actually trying to log in right now? Right? And if you are, great. Let me immediately work with you to get your stuff. Let me get you unlocked. That agent can unlock me. The agent isn't actually unlocking me, right? The agent is using Data Cloud to reach into the system that actually has me locked. And it is then unlocking me, and then it's communicating back with me about how to reset my password, or even resetting it for me if I wanted it to, right? Really, really brilliant process. And it's all spoon fed. It's all just handed to me because this agent is just reaching out proactively, trying to help me not have to create another ticket, right? But the agent actually does create a ticket. The agent does log that it did that and was able to resolve my concern. So me, an idiot that cannot type his password, right? That's me. Because seriously, I talk to this agent a lot. We have really good, deep conversations about my passwords and how they should probably be less complex, but here we are. And it manages to tell me that I've locked myself out, reset me, create the case and close the case, manage the entire process. It's just me and that thing, and I didn't have to bother a single person. And so no one else at Salesforce knows my shame that I don't know how to actually type my own password, right? Except for all of you in perpetuity. But
I actually have a question on that one. Was with a client earlier today who's interested in using this technology to help with in a call center, right? And so helping like assist the agents and those kinds of things in the call center. And one of the items that he is most interested in is not necessarily the agent itself, but the analytics behind the agent to figure out how quickly it got to a resolution and the steps that it took to get and why it went from one way to another. Like, what type of have you experienced in any way, like how you would do analytics on, the 17 different steps it just took to get to this answer, and like how that would kind of perpetrate over and over again? Is that, how would you do, like, how would you go?
This is a brilliant question, and I'm actually going to write it down. I am going to answer your question too, but I'm going to write it down because I'm always working on stuff, and I have a thing called Agentforce Answers that I'm working on. It's going to be a YouTube series. It's not out yet. Don't look for it. Okay. So what should you report on is a brilliant question. Should I report? Yes, obviously, we're going to report. But what should I report on is a brilliant question. So there's a couple of different levels to this. The first thing is, if you would report on a human, report on the agent, right? How many widgets did you do? Just tell me, right? All the same KPI that you care about today, you're going to care about tomorrow in an agentic world. And don't change that paradigm, right? I would never recommend to another organization, hey, reinvent the entire wheel just because you're now doing something agentic. The point of agentic future is not to reinvent the wheel. It's to allow the agent to create time for employees so that they can do something more beneficial than minutia, like unlocking me 5 times a day. Now, on the flip side, there's a deeper question. There was well, I want to get this part of the resolution and I want to understand how the agent got to its answer. That's spicy. That is so incredibly spicy. So
I try.
the truth of it is, and there's a really good analogy with physics. If you want me to tell you how fast a particle is moving, I can do that. But by knowing its speed, it is impossible for me to tell you its location. And if you want me to tell you its location, that's fine, I can do that. But it is then impossible for me to tell its speed. And this is like a fundamental truth of the way that we interact with physics and particles today. There's a similar problem with AI. I can tell you what I gave it, and I can tell you what I got back. I cannot tell you exactly how the brain got there. Just like if I were to ask you, how did you know to ask me that question? You can give me your reasoning, you can give me all the inputs you received, and then you can give me an output, but I can't actually see the neurons in your brain firing. It's very, very similar thing with the AI. We can look under the hood a lot, right? Like that center of the screen. You can see all of that. You can log if you really wanted to. You could build out some Splunk logs, and you could start firing off logs when various things happen, right? Various gates were passed through. But exactly how it got to the answer, there's always going to be some gray in there, right? And if anybody tells you that they can tell you exactly how the AI got there, they are selling something, and I don't believe them. Like, I fundamentally don't believe them. Part of how generative AI works is a bit of a black box. We know that it does work, and we know why it works. We can't tell you how it got there specifically.
So it's like Bitcoin. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Only this is worth something. That's Mike's opinion on Bitcoin. There you go. All of it. Right.
I was just in El Salvador this past week, and that's their like currency. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Anyway.
In El Salvador?
Yeah.
I went to, I had a call center in El Salvador, and I had a moment where I was in San Salvador and I was buying breakfast for myself, and my two coworkers was like $75,000, whatever the unit of currency is down there at the hotel. And I had a momentary heart attack. And then I realized I wasn't in the United States. It's not USD, it's something else.
Yeah.
But I took a picture of it and sent it to my manager anyway. And I was like, hey, just heads up. Sorry in advance. Yeah, I didn't know that Bitcoin was so popular down there.
Apparently.
I wouldn't be able to do anything ever. I don't know.
So are there best practices? So, okay, back onto our actual topic today.
Yeah.
Are there best practices around reporting on some of these capabilities? Does Salesforce have any sort of dashboards or anything that are already out? Is that in the roadmap coming? Do you safe harbor, of course?
Yeah, safe harbor. The ability to report on more stuff is certainly coming. What I encourage everybody is kind of like what I started at the top, right? Like if your agent is working cases, right? It's they're dealing with password resets all day long for your customer base and your employee base and stuff like that. Great. We'll track those, right? Track the widgets, track the conversations. When we do have our public facing agents, there's a lot of live monitoring that's available, right? We can use omnichannel supervisor, and you can watch, like if you've got, like let's say you have a WhatsApp agent that is deployed in WhatsApp and it's having all of these various conversations, you can watch those conversations live. You can see what it's doing, and you can track and measure in the exact same way that you would have measured any other KPI before. And so we don't actually need to reinvent the wheel. Whatever you're measuring now, measure that then, right? Now, if you want to add overhead, right? And that's the key thing I will focus on. If you want to add overhead, like with my API, any of my friends that are writing APIs, very, very common to create an API log object. It is just noting this API call was made. This was the response. Here's another API call that was made. This was the response. That's a sensible object. A lot of people build that object, and a lot of people keep it, and then they come up with a data retention policy for how long are they going to keep those API logs, right? Or they write them out to Splunk, right? You could do a similar thing with your agents. You could say, hey, every time XYZ happens, I want you to go and write a log over here. Off platform, on platform, who cares, right? You could build in that logging if you want. I would just ask, it's sort of like writing a message to a debug, right? If I keep too many debug logs in my code, I'm only adding time to the operation of my code. So anytime I'm doing that, I want to make sure that it's valuable. I want to make sure that the business is going to be using this data in a meaningful way, because here, because it's consumption, this is direct cost. Like you would be able to actually set a dollar value on the cost of logging. So for the time being, I would encourage focusing on the standard ones, doing all the research when it's in that center panel and you can actually see, you know, how did I reason my way to where I'm landing today? I would focus on that and not add that overhead. But for some businesses, they're going to want to.
Yeah.
You know, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just appreciate what it's costing. Right.
Cool.
Yeah. Any other general questions about Agentforce or AI or Prompt Builder, anything like that? You don't know what the feature looks like, Powerball numbers, whatever.
I'm interested to know with some of the insurance specific folks on the call, and I actually had some of the go-to-market team over at Salesforce that I was with this week asking the same question that they wanted to know from you all is like, what are some of the use cases that you guys are seeing that you would maybe like to use this for? I can give you a laundry list of the ones that Salesforce and that, you know, we're kind of seeing from a thought leader perspective in the industry, but like, what do you guys want? What would make your life better? And everybody at once. Did we lose everyone? Everyone's still there, right? Brad's there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Sorry, I was muted.
that's okay.
At Cumberland, we were part of the Agentforce 1000, the pilot that Salesforce did.
Yeah.
And we used the agent to kind of be an easy access to our knowledge base for our customers on our website. We had already had a knowledge base that wasn't really plugged into our website. We extended that out to our customers using the agent. We will say that it was a learning curve. We found ourselves putting up a lot of rails because we were concerned that it might go off the rails.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that looking back, I think we'd like to kind of backtrack a bit and maybe start fresh sometime and let the AI do what it does best and kind of give it more context and less guidelines. So, you know, I think what we found was that we could kind of use an untrained model and get better results than we did with our heavily trained model. So I think AI, you know, let's use the technology, let's let it think for us and not try to overthink for it.
Yeah. Those are good insights, Brad.
We have
Yeah,
another use case too, by the way, that I really wanted to do. We just weren't able to make it part of the pilot. And that is that we intake claims through our website and it's
Yeah.
just a web form today. But we have internally in Salesforce, our customer service team uses a flow to do first notice of loss. And so
Yeah.
when they're talking to somebody on the phone, it's more of a guided experience. We'd like to extend that flow out to our website and use an agent to help with that conversation so that when we're not in the office, you know, the weekends, the evenings, we have a better experience for somebody who's in a claim situation and also the ability to understand when to escalate to a human.
Yeah.
that's a perfect use case. But I would say that the agent probably doesn't need that flow. And
Right.
This is an interesting aspect of design, right? I think a lot of us, we're looking at our current business processes and our current automation footprint. And then we say, well, how does an agent fit into this? And we look at the chess pieces that are on the board and we say, all of them are still necessary, right? But in reality, that agent probably doesn't need the flow. The flow made the human faster. But the
Correct.
agent can write the record, right? And ultimately, when you have that, like this claim has been reported to me, this first notice of loss is coming in, whatever the human would have done, whatever records, whatever lookups, whatever else, the agent's just going to do that. So we can probably simplify the actual design for the agent's sake, because the agent knows everything, and I'm not as concerned about optimizing the agent's time and effort as I would have a human, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think our flow is very much geared to how we intake in a more formal, rigid process. And obviously it's much more
Sure.
interactive with an end consumer.
For sure.
And there's, I think the other thing that we found ourselves doing was in our flow, it actually says, is everybody okay? You start the conversation with, is everybody okay? Because we wanted to make sure we had an empathetic, reset for the customer service person.
Sure.
In the case of a agent, the empathy should be part of what it does.
Right. And that's going to be one of the topics of the instructions, right? Always lead with empathy.
Yeah. It's ironic, actually, if you think about it, that you have to remind humans to be empathetic, but it's much more intuitive with these new LLMs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one that I thought was really cool that we actually just rolled out for an insurance company, and it actually surrounds tech debt. And so they have a very old Service Cloud implementation that's like, ooh. And there's been a million admins in there. They're all over the place. They've got, I think that they had 250 some case types and sub case types to go along with it. And they were expecting their, agents and whatnot to come onto this portal and like do a decision tree to like help figure out how to put a case in, right? It's like, it's a disaster. And a terrible experience, right?
Yep.
And so they put this agent
it didn't work, did it?
Where, well, it did work. It was just a terrible experience, right? So, so we put the agent in place so that you can have a natural conversation with the agent, and then it tags all of these things appropriately, creates that case, routes it to the right person, and or gets the answers and finishes things through in a significantly faster resolution time frame. So I thought that was really cool. And as I was talking through it, there's a lot of folks who want to go, and obviously everyone has tech debt that they have to fix in some way, shape, or form, especially these companies that have had Salesforce for years and years. As things kind of evolve, your business evolves, Salesforce evolves, all those things. Like you end up with some of it that you'll have to clean up eventually. But this makes it so that it is a significantly faster user experience that gets there, or better user experience faster, right? As opposed to having to go through and clean all of that up. That could have taken, that's a project in and of itself of even potentially a couple of months to like have to migrate all that stuff over, depending on how much
for sure
you have, right? So
100%.
I thought that was kind of a cool thing too.
I think with a lot of those, there's an interesting phenomenon that happens with over specificity and human, right? So when I get to, okay, there's 250 type and subtype choices. You're telling a human, I need you to maintain this understanding of these 250 various things. There's a lot of nuance in here. There's a lot of technical nuance. There's just a lot that goes into that. Well, the agent can be trained on all of it, right? And one of the drawbacks that you get is that when you're passing over instructions to your agent, you didn't realize you were passing over instructions to your agent, because what we did is when you created the field, we said, do you have any help text, and can you give me a description? And then there's a bunch of field metadata below that no one ever fills out, right?
Yeah.
Well, fill that out because your agent's looking at it. Your agent is aware of your metadata, right? Like when you put it in your environment and you say, hey, this is our case object. All those fields have a description, except for the standard ones. It knows the standard ones. You don't have to train it there. But when you go down into case type and you start giving it all these other things, a lot of people, you include jargon, or abbreviations, which work for your employees, but they don't work for the agent, right? I can tell you, I mean, if I'm a senior TPMM, that means next to nothing for most people, right? Unless you're aware of how Salesforce and Slack structure their teams, right? The agent doesn't want to know I'm a senior TPMM. They want to know that I'm a senior technical product marketing manager. And all of a sudden it's like, I know what that is, right? And so having that metadata filled out gives the agent the ability to then understand at a much better level what all of those 250 possible options are. And then what the agent won't do that the human was, right? Nearly every human that gets in that situation is going to become habitual, right? That you'll see the use of other. If you have 250 choices and one of them is other should be pretty infrequent because there's so many choices. But if you look at the data, other is probably rather frequent because people are like, finding what I need is too difficult. So I'm going to choose other and then type out what I need.
Yeah.
Well, instead of doing that, you typed it to the agent and the agent said, it's actually this, right? And so I could see where that would work out really well if all of the structure is there, right? If the structure is not there, that'd be a nightmare. Just like it would be for a human.
Right. Awesome. Any other questions from anyone or comments?
Cool.
Well, thank you, Mike, so much for walking us through this. I really appreciate your help and guidance as we kind of went through it all.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing it. You did all the work. I just talked.
All right. Well, we are going to wrap it up for today then. We did it at night, less than 90 minutes. Look at us.
Okay.
Fantastic. So hope that you guys got some good, good ideas going forward on this, and we'll be in touch with new things coming forward. Thank you. Happy Friday.
All right. Thanks, Shel. Have a good
Bye,
one.
all.
Thank you.
Do you want to